This is Captain Chris Myers, Central Florida Sight Fishing Charters, and I'm here at the fly shop at Mosquito Creek Outdoors in Apopka. I'm going to show you today how to finish the end of a fly line. Some of the fly lines you buy today come with a loop whipped into them. I'm going to show you how to finish one that comes like this with nothing on the end of it. Now you could tie a nail knot on it. That's what came. This was a set and it came out of the box like that. I don't much trust that line for big fish. I'd rather have a loop-to-loop connection, and allows you to put another leader on your line without having to cut anything. Once you have a loop on it like this, you can put leaders on and off and never have to touch the end of my fly line again. So I'm going to show you the way I do it and what works good for me. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but this is what I've been using, and I've never had one come apart yet. So the first thing I'm going to do is fold this over. I got my loop, fold it over, pinch that off, and then get myself a piece of 15-pound test mono. Place that alongside it, hold that all three pieces in my fingers, and then make a loop. Doesn't really matter how big it is, but you're gonna have to feed the line through there, so it's about the size I make it. Now I got everything pinched in between my left thumb and forefinger. I'm gonna take this part that's facing towards the closed end of the loop. I'm gonna start wrapping it around and coming through the loop, just like you're making a uni knot. And every wrap, I'm gonna have to pinch it off between my thumb and forefinger. So feed it through, pinch it off, lay it next to the other one, because when we pull this tight, we want these wraps to be laying next to each other, so we can't just put them over there on top of each other, or it won't pull together nicely. I'm gonna put it through about 5-6 times, reaching through and getting it each time, pinching it off. Now when I have it wrapped around as many times as I'm going to wrap it, I'm going to switch hands. I'm going to hold everything in that hand. I'm going to pull on this piece that was towards my main line. I'm going to pull it down slow, so making sure these wraps go next to each other as I pull it together. Sometimes you have to feed them up so they're nice and tight against each other. Once in a while you get a straggler that wants to close out there by its own. When you pull them together, they should be wrapped up next to each other like that, nice and tight. Then I can cut it off real close. And to be real secure, what I prefer to do is make that knot all over again right next to the one we just did. That way I'm sure that it's not going to come apart. A lot of times that will hold you, but especially when you're fishing saltwater, and any day we might be catching a 20-30 pound fish. I'm going to just move right behind that knot, because that's about the size of the loop I want on the end. So I'm going to move right behind it towards the main line. I'm going to do that all over again. Again, get my 15-pound mono, make my loop, come through. I'm going to switch hands, pull it down with my left hand until it gets just about tight. Again, might have to cinch those up with my nail to get them right next to each other before I pull them all the way tight. Now I have 2 knots on there. That thing is definitely not coming apart on you. Now, that doesn't look so great, and we don't want that monofilament rubbing on stuff, so what we're going to do is finish it with a whip finish. We'll cut those off close. Then you see I have a little excess there. I don't want to have this knot way too long, so I'm going to trim it down some. Now I'm going to cover that up, and this is where we use the bobbin or a thread. You want to make sure you have pretty strong thread so this doesn't break, and you'll see why in a second. Just lay that along there. Let's get some wraps started. Once you have it started, let's trim off this excess. And here's where you got to have some room. So you want to dangle some off your bobbin, like so. And what you're going to do is spin it around. I'm going to hold this up, and I'm going to start swinging it around. And I'm going to guide it in between my fingers as I swing it around. When I get to the end, pull some more down, get it going. It's that tension that makes nice tight wraps. And you can move it back and forth, and I'm going to cover up those knots that I made. This is why you don't want to use too fine of thread. It'll definitely break on you when you're spinning it around. So I use pretty heavy duty stuff. And we're going to make sure we bring that all the way down over the end where it's folded over. You have a nice smooth transition, and this should last you for years and years. I've had these knots on some fly lines 10 years probably. You want to make sure you cover this up until you don't see any more of the fly line in there. Don't see any more of that knot left. It's better to have a little too much than not quite enough, I say. Now when you get done, then we have to finish this off. Here's a little trick way to finish it. Go get your mono again. Lay your mono down on there. Make a little loop. Fold your mono in half. Make yourself a loop. Take your thread and wrap it around about 4 or 5 times. Make this a little shorter here. So I'm going to wrap this around my loop forward so it's not super tight. I'm going to come down here and cut it off. Take this end that I cut and stick it up through my loop. Grab the other 2 ends of my loop, pull on them, it pulls it right underneath. You get a nice finish on that knot, and trim that off. And then we just coat that with our plyo bond. Take a little bit of this plyo bond, which has a little, I like this kind with the brush on it better than just the tube. It's easier to paint it on, but you can see it's like rubber cement. And you paint that on there and you let that dry, and you'll have a nice flexible finish that should last you for years and years. The finish wears off every now and then. You might need to touch up the plyo bond every year or 2, but that knot should last you for a long time because there's nothing to ever rub on it or break it down. And that is how we end up with a whip finish on our fly line that'll last you for a long time.